Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 10 things Americans do that Europeans would never do. She goes to the US a lot. I feel like she knows a lot about the US, and obviously she's from Ireland, so she's just someone who's good at, I guess, sharing differences and things that maybe Europeans do, or in this case Americans do. And yeah, we're going to see some of these things because I guess from her experiences she just noticed these things and they've popped out to her as big differences. But we're going to check this out, hopefully going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon, weekly reactions that I can't post to YouTube, movies, TV series, all that stuff. Links are there for those who want to see that. But let's see things that Americans do that people like me or Europeans wouldn't do. But as I say every video like this, I feel like I'm in between as a Brit, in between the US and in between Europe, because there's things that I feel like I do a lot, like more similar to people on mainland Europe, and then things that people do in the US that I'm like, you know what, that's a thing that's quite common in England or in Britain or whatever. So we're gonna see these differences, but yeah, hopefully going to enjoy, and let's check this out.
They seem a little exclusionary as well. The last time a country in Europe was during the Reich. Can they even be called? So today we're going to be doing a video you guys requested. Remember, you asked for it, so don't get mad at me. If you can hear the good stuff, you should be able to hear the not so good stuff. And honestly, let's all stop taking ourselves so seriously. This is a list by just some random blonde girl from Ireland on the internet.
Based off that, I'm assuming this is negative things then. I didn't know that was the case. I'm still going to watch this and do this reaction, but I was just thinking these are just different things. Okay, here we go.
But everything I say is 100% true. Verified by Chewy. I put out a list recently on the channel, 10 things that Europe has recently adopted from the America. And after I put out that list, you guys asked me to do the opposite list. 10 things that Europe will never adopt from America. And because I am psychic and everything I say is 100% accurate, factual, factual, this list exists. So let's get into it. The very first thing that Europe will never adopt that has been a thing for a really long time in America is the traditional stag and hen party happening the night before the wedding. Now, I know
that is mad, because stuff that happens on this is stuff that you probably shouldn't do the night before your wedding. Probably stuff you shouldn't do if you're going to get married, but each to their own. But the night, I didn't actually know this, by the way. The night before. Damn. Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
not every American person does this. That would be the generalization thing. It's a really terrible idea to have your stagger hen party the night before. Notoriously, oh, I'm sorry, you guys call it a bachelorette party. It sounds much more sophisticated.
To sophistication.
Traditionally, stag and hen parties in Europe result in, well, there's no nice way to put this, getting the groom or bride absolutely wasted off their bean. She said bean, yes she did. The last thing you want on your wedding day is a mega hangover. That is a recipe for disaster. Also, as brides and grooms tend to get married older in Europe versus America, well, you know, you can't take your liquor quite as well when you get older, so it's just never gonna happen. We're never gonna do it the day before. It's a terrible idea. The next thing that I don't think Europeans will ever adopt from America is how some American people have their children move out at 18. Now, I'm not saying...
To be fair, I moved out, I had just turned 19. I moved out because I was like, I can't stay in this place. My house is not nice, to say the least. My mum's house is not nice now. It wasn't nice then. I had to get out. So I moved out at 19. If I had a situation where I was like, I was comfortable, I had a family, a nice family home, all this stuff, I would have stayed at home probably till like 22. Like, just saved money, honestly. Like, I'm very jealous or envious of people that have that environment, honestly. Is this a thing though? Moving out at 18? I would have thought, if anything, it's the other way around, but I don't have anything to back that up. I'm just sort of making assumptions. But moving out at 18 in the US, I guess, is a thing more than in Europe. But I don't know if I agree with that.
Some European families don't do this. They do, but they're not as common as families who just keep their kids around a lot. a long, long time. People live in their family home into their 30s these days. I think a huge part of the reason this happens more so in Europe than in the States comes down to the fact that people travel in America for university. So they'll travel out of state to a completely different state and they get to live on campus. You can live on campus in European universities, but most people don't. Also, family is a huge thing in Europe. I'll be coming back around to this later in the list. American people love their families, but it's not uncommon for some families to go and just see each other at Christmas or Thanksgiving.
That's more than me, to be fair. That's more than me. I think she's talking about like Eastern Europe, if I'm honest. I say Eastern Europe. I feel like places like Spain and maybe Italy and those places probably there's a lot of sentiment around family and stuff. Me, it's not like that at all. It's just probably situations that you're in. There's probably some British people that or English people that do stuff with their family all the time, and like it isn't just a Christmas thing or a birthday thing. And then there's some that just don't do it at all. But that's just probably how it is in the US. But at the same time, the US, they have a lot more celebrations, so they probably see each other a lot more because there's Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Christmas, Easter, just loads. Like in the UK, it's probably pretty much just Christmas and maybe a birthday thing, and that's it.
Whereas a lot of bigger European families will try to get together once a week, once a month. And this comes down to the fact that most people in Europe live in much smaller proximity.
Why is it so
closer
quiet?
Proximity. Grammar is your friend, Diane. The next thing that is just
Now it's loud. This is so hard. It's so loud and so quiet. I apologize. I'm trying to adjust it and it's just loud and quiet.
Practical for Europe to adopt from America is whopper cars. I freaking love some of the cars that you guys have. Like their wheels are as big as a house. But if you've ever traveled somewhere like Ireland, you know the streets are bockety and dimey. Narrow little streets. Can they even be called roads? I think in my life in Europe, I've seen one, maybe two of those humongous cars in Europe, but they are never going to be widely adopted because they're just not practical. American roads are very well structured. You can have 10 lanes of traffic. It's not uncommon. Whereas a lot of places in Europe have just much smaller infrastructure. There's a lot of just makeshift roads and things. We, of course, have motorways and dual carriageways, but if you're going anywhere outside of a town or city in a lot of countries, you're going to find yourself on a dirt road. And while those cars sound fantastic, they just might not fit. Next up is European businesses allowing you to use their bathroom facilities. This is a big thing I noticed when traveling in the States. You guys have recently started to get public restrooms. These are just like restrooms that are just willy-nilly all over the place and you can just use them. A lot of times in Europe you will have to pay
Yeah, this is something that actually got brought up like in a video reaction like, a few days ago. That just in America, you just typically can just go into a restaurant or whatever. I think into just a restaurant and you just go to the toilet without having to pay for stuff, which is just convenient as hell. Because in Europe, I mean, I feel like Europe's notoriously known for just having to pay to use toilets, whether it's toilets that are connected to restaurants or just random toilets like public toilets that you have to pay for to go in. It's just the thing that you have to pay for. It's a bit stingy, but I guess they got to try and make their money somehow. But like, cause yeah, you're willing to pay €1 if you're bursting through a wheel, whatever. So it's very cheeky, but what can you do about it?
a certain amount of money to use the restroom, like a nominal amount, like 20 cents or 20 pence, depending where you are. But in the USA, I've noticed a lot of businesses will allow you to just go in and use their restroom. They don't even ask why you're walking into their establishment, like
That's
a restaurant
class.
or a pub. More so in Europe, you'll see signs saying toilets are for customer use only. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the States. It's just way easier to just walk into an establishment and use their bathroom. So I think you guys are going to go more the way of Europe in that respect. I think you'll get more publicly accessible restrooms and less times people can just walk in off the street and use your bathroom. The next thing Europeans will never do is a pledge of allegiance. I know a lot of Europeans talk about how this is kind of
Is there any country that would be doing something like this? I don't think there really would be.
a strange thing. I actually find it kind of nice in a way that schools still do this in the USA. A lot of Irish schools, you'll find yourself saying a prayer, even if you're not religious, in the morning or before your lunch or your baby break. Do other countries call it baby break? The one before lunch? You know, you have the little morning break. Or is that an Irish thing? The last time a country in Europe said a pledge of allegiance was during the Reich. So it's just not gonna happen. I don't think it's something we're gonna do. I just don't see it happening. The next,
That was brought up in a video a few days ago as well, and I got a lot of comments of saying like it's not a thing that's forced upon people. I see both sides of it. Like, I understand the importance of being being proud of where you're from, and this sort of stuff would definitely help with that in a lot of countries. I see both sides of it. In the UK, there was not really anything that I'd do. I didn't go to a very good school. It wasn't a great school, to be fair, but there was nothing. Like, there was nothing, no sort of pledge, nothing like she said either. I didn't do any sort of praying. So, in that sort of sense as well, that could be quite soulless. Like, there's just nothing that you sort of do for school. You just got to get there on time and then just get to each lesson. But like I said, my school was pretty bad. But it's one of those things, man. I see both sides, and I understand why it's a thing. And if it's been a thing for so long, I guess why would they stop it? Kind of, it's just sort of ingrained into the culture and stuff. So I don't see why they would stop it.
thing I do not see happening in Europe very much is supersizing. Now, supersizing had its moment. It ended in 2004 in the States, but you guys still
What,
have
size
really
foods?
big food
Portions.
courses. Your courses are really big. You'll get a lot of food and then you'll take it away home. And even though doggy bags are becoming a thing in Europe more commonly, I still think the tendency in Europe is to keep things small. And there are a couple of reasons for this. A lot of countries in Europe pride themselves on their fine cuisine and delicacies, and these are said to come in small amounts. So a restaurant who is piling your food on top of your plate, the food won't be looked at as good quality. Also, the attitude to weight is different here. There is a lot of legislation in European countries to prevent an obesity epidemic, as we have seen in the States. Things include supermarket tills not having junk food beside them.
Supermarket tills. Okay, to be fair, I'm trying to think. Tills in England will have like chewing gum, and they'll have snacks, but it'll always be like the sort of snacks that they try and at least promote as healthy. Like, I don't know how they sort of, it's just healthier snacks like nuts or like, and it's always in smaller portion sizes as well. To be fair, that's quite true. Because in one of my local big stores near me, there used to be like all the snacks and stuff near where you'd pay for your food, and they've literally moved it to the other end now. I don't know if that's related to what she's saying now, or if that's just more down to how supermarkets just always change like the positioning of stuff. That's quite an interesting one though, the positioning of where they put stuff in the like near the tills and stuff. Like, yeah, that's pretty. I didn't really think of it like that, but that makes sense.
And smaller portions in fast food restaurants. Not every country has the same laws, but they do tend to be rolled out with the same idea in mind. The next thing I do not see happening in European countries.
At the same time, though, you're getting your money's worth. Like, you're not. I don't think most people are gonna eat out every single day they eat out, or every single day. Sorry. So if you're getting these big portions where you can take some home, I ain't complaining about that. It's just food that I can have later, and you're probably paying a similar sort of price as you would to like pay for it in Europe, if not less realistically, because Europe, I feel like Europe's just expensive as hell, but I could be wrong. Also depends on like the tipping as well, how much you spend on that. But big portion sizes, I ain't got a problem with that. I mean, certain places in England have bigger portion sizes because it's just a sort of style of food where they just throw loads on your plate, and I don't complain, man. I love that stuff. So it's just, I guess it also depends in the US though. Like, say you go to the US and you go and eat at like, I'm just gonna say like a Chinese restaurant. Would you get massive portion sizes still, or is it more so when you eat at like just American sort of food places where you get like cheeseburgers and ribs and stuff? Is that when you get the insane portion sizes? I guess it just depends on what sort of places you're going to.
Is fraternities and sororities, even though they look hella fun. Actually, they also kind of look like a bit like crazy to us, especially the things I see on TikTok where all the girls are dressed the same and look the same. But
I've seen
also
that.
look fun. I'm very torn. They seem a little exclusionary as well.
Yeah.
Not saying we don't have that in Europe, we do, let me explain. So again, this one comes back to living on campus. Most Europeans don't live on campus.
Is that true? Don't live on campus? There's still there's still homes on campus. I think what she's saying is in the US, in unis, everyone lives on campus. I think that's what she's saying, which is, I didn't actually know that, to be fair. If that's the case, that is pretty insane. In England, you have campus homes, and then you have homes where people will just live in the city, realistically, just student homes, student accommodation. That's wild, that. Campuses in the US are going to be huge if everyone's living on campus.
In their universities, and more so than having a fraternity or sorority, we're encouraged to join clubs. I was in like 3 different clubs in my university. I was actually chairperson of 2. Yes, your girl is hella bossy. I'm not bossy as much anymore. I actually don't like to be in charge. That's a lot of responsibility and very little thanks. Joining an academic club does not go toward your academic credits in most European universities. However, it's usually something you can put on your CV. And when you're stepping out of university, trying to get in somewhere as a, what's it called, trainee type person, those clubs can be really, really good. The next thing, this is not going to surprise anyone, it's the legal drinking age. We will never higher our drinking age to 21. Now, I know, and you guys know, that most Americans don't actually start drinking at 21, but it is a lot harder for you guys to get alcohol under the age of 21. Most countries in Europe, the legal drinking age is 18. However, there is a big allowance for if you're with your family or at a dinner or eating a meal in a restaurant. So if you're eating a meal, you can have a certain amount of alcohol. Some countries, as I said, you have to be with a parent or guardian. But there's also the factor that in a lot of countries, alcohol is part of the culture. Ireland definitely has a drinking culture. For example,
Oh yeah, the Irish love their alcohol, as do the Brits. Let's not lie here. We love our alcohol, which has its pros and its cons. But so do Americans. That's the thing. I feel like Americans love their alcohol as well. It's such an interesting one. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to change, is it, realistically? But 21 being the legal drinking age is just such a weird one, because like 21, you're a fully grown adult before that, I feel like. Maybe not mentally, which is probably part of it. But physically, you're fully grown, you can make your own decisions, and you can do a lot of other stuff at a younger age. So I just find it interesting. I guess it's one of those things, maybe it's just a thing, and this is very far-fetched, because you usually go to uni at like 18, 19 years of age until like 22. Maybe it's just to stop people from drinking at uni. That's such a stupid guess. Obviously, it's not that. Probably helps. Means there's not as many drunks at uni. But even then, like she said, they're still going to be drinking, aren't they? Going to find ways to get that alcohol. But yeah, I guess if you are American, let me know when you actually first drank alcohol or first got drunk in your life. Because I guess it will differentiate. Some people will probably just started young, and then some people will have just started at the legal drinking age. But I guess, yeah, let me know in the comments when, or if you have. I mean, maybe on the off chance you haven't.
example, a lot of people will have their first pint at a funeral when they're a teenager. Well, that's what their parents think. They've probably had a nagging out in the field before that. But in France and
That's
Italy,
me.
children may have a little half a glass of wine with water with their dinner. It's all just part of the culture. So 21 is never going to fly in Europe. The next thing we're never going to get in Europe is the really, really high water levels that you guys have in your toilets. I mean, they're really... You know when you...
I forgot about this one. Wait, so... the splashback. Oh, brother. The splashback must be insane.
Okay, I'm going to get graphic. You can be still sitting sometimes when you flush, and then it's just not pleasant.
Oh.
Also, there's the whole
I hate that.
wasting water thing. I don't really know how plumbing works, but we're happy with our water levels at like a tiny bit of water. And yeah.
Water touching your bum is, for me, just makes me cringe. No thanks, man. God damn.
Yeah, there's a whole splashing problem. We'll move on from this one. Move on from this one quickly. But we're just never gonna do. And number one, oh my gosh, this is such a big difference. Actually, before I do the big difference, do subscribe if you like me and this channel. We do a lot of different things. Somebody recently said I was their most favorite variety channel in comments. Yes, I am in comments in the first hour club. When I post a video, I am in comments, looking at all the comments, reading them. So subscribe, turn on the bell, like the video, audience. So put your it is Americans' view on company as family. Now I know
I have no idea what she means by this. Company as family. Here we go.
So this is not usually the worker's attitude. It's usually like the company that employs you wants you to look at the company as your family. Well, recently there was a survey in Europe of workers, and they asked, would you rather get company perks like access to gyms, free water? You should always get free water. Free like soft drinks and food and stuff. Or would you rather get better working conditions like hours, time off, paid maternity leave? And it is no surprise that Europeans opted for the latter. Honestly, I think America...
If companies want you to think of them as family in America, then they should treat people better. Give them give them stuff that you'd assume that if you were their family, they would give you these things as well.
Are kind of on the verge of change on this one in a lot of companies too. People are spending less time in the office, so I think this is one that the Americans are coming around to a more European way of thinking, and in a lot of European countries, work is definitely looked at as less important than time with your family and your friends. Look at Spain, for example. There is a siesta in the middle of the day. Americans are said to live to work, but I think with the recent changes in the last couple of years, Americans might be coming around to a more relaxed way of life also. I mean, if you can do some work from home, why not? So let me...
I mean, when it always says relaxed way of life, I can't lie. It makes Europe seem like it's just like this place where no one's stressed and it's just easy day-to-day life. That's not how it is at all. But it obviously does help with these abilities to just have a bit more freedom and... free time and freedom in terms of just being able to just do your own stuff a bit more often, not have to just solely think about work. But I've been through that before, and it is just a sad one, and I understand that people need to get their money, so they just have to work as much as possible, and that's just how it is. First two things are not common in America. Most bachelorette parties are not night before wedding. Most parents don't kick kids out at 18. That's what I was saying. If anything, I would have thought not in Europe, but maybe more so in my country, actually, I feel like it's probably the same. Like you stay at home until basically you're kicked out when you're like mid to late 20s, or you just don't move out at all. I guess, or you do move out for like university and stuff, which obviously is a thing, but the percentage of people that go to university, probably like 35%. I don't actually know the percentages, but 35% of maybe kids turning 18, 19, 20 go to uni. So you know how it is. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you agree with this or disagree. I mean, I assume some of you will disagree with this stuff. The Bachelorette one, I actually didn't know, to be fair. I didn't know that at all, so that could actually be not true. But yeah, that's that. Hopefully you enjoyed, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.